The greatest danger in your life is not what people say about you. The greatest danger is believing the lies that slowly pull you away from God's truth. Because a lie does not always appear as something obvious. Sometimes it comes disguised as success. Sometimes it comes disguised as acceptance. Sometimes it comes disguised as your own thoughts telling you that you have to depend only on yourself, that you have to compromise your values, that you have to chase what the world celebrates just to feel valuable. But today, you need to hear this clearly. A life built on lies may look strong on the outside, but it will always be weak at the foundation. You can build an image. You can impress people. You can collect achievements. You can receive applause from the world. But if your heart is disconnected from God's truth, everything you build will always leave you empty. Psalm 52 is a powerful reminder that God sees beyond appearances. He sees what people cannot see. He knows what is hidden behind words, actions, and intentions. Nothing escapes His eyes. You may fool people. You may hide your struggles. You may create an image that looks perfect, but you cannot hide from God. And that is not something to fear. That is something to be grateful for. Because the God who sees everything is also the God who restores everything. He sees your battles. He sees your disappointments. He sees the moments when you feel tired from trying to prove yourself. And He is calling you back to something stronger than human approval. He is calling you back to truth. The problem is that many people spend their entire lives trying to build themselves on things that were never designed to hold them. They build on people's opinions. They build on temporary success. They build on money, status, and recognition. Then one day, when those things shake, they wonder why their peace disappears. The reason is simple. Anything that is not built on God will eventually be tested. The world teaches you to ask, how can I become more admired? God teaches you to ask, how can I become more faithful? And the world tells you to protect your image. God tells you to protect your heart. The world tells you to prove your worth. God tells you that your worth already comes from Him. And here is the truth many people avoid. You cannot find lasting peace by chasing temporary things. You cannot satisfy a spiritual hunger with worldly success. You cannot replace God's presence with the approval of people. The hardest realization is this. Sometimes the thing keeping you from God's best is not an enemy outside of you. Sometimes it is the false belief inside of you. The belief that you need to control everything. The belief that you cannot trust God completely. The belief that your way is always better. But Psalm 52 challenges that mindset. It reminds you that God is not asking you to carry a burden that was never meant for you. He is asking you to trust Him. Trust His timing. Trust His wisdom. Trust His direction. Because God's truth does not need to compete with lies. Truth stands. A lie needs attention to survive. A lie needs people to protect it. A lie needs constant support to continue. But God's truth remains powerful even when nobody believes it. That is why you must be careful what you allow to control your mind. Every day, voices are fighting for your attention. Voices that tell you to give up. Voices that tell you to compromise. Voices that tell you that you are defined by your past mistakes. But God speaks a different truth. Your past does not have the final word. Your failures do not have the final word. People's opinions do not have the final word. God does. Today, Psalm 52 is reminding you to stop building your life on things that can collapse. Stop trusting what changes. Stop depending on what disappears. Build your life on the one who remains the same. Because when your foundation is God, you do not have to live in fear of what people say, what circumstances bring, or what challenges appear. You can stand with confidence because your life is no longer supported by a fragile foundation. It is supported by the eternal truth of God. And when God is your foundation, no lie can destroy you. No opinion can define you. No storm can remove you from the purpose He has prepared for your life. One of the hardest truths you must accept is this: not everything that looks successful is blessed by God. Not everything that gains attention is approved by God. Not everything that grows quickly has a strong foundation. The world often measures success by what can be seen. How many people know your name? How much influence you have? How much money you possess? How much recognition you receive? But God does not measure your life the way people do. God looks deeper. He looks at the heart behind the actions. He looks at the intentions behind the words. He looks at the character behind the image. And this is where many people make a dangerous mistake. They believe that if something looks good on the outside, everything must be right on the inside. But God sees what people hide. He sees the pride behind the smile. He sees the selfish motives behind the success. He sees the hidden choices that nobody else knows about. Psalm 52 reveals a powerful truth. No one can build a lasting life by depending on deception. A person may use manipulation to get ahead. A person may use dishonesty to gain power. A person may destroy others to create their own success. And for a moment, it may seem like they are winning. But what is built without truth cannot stand forever. You need to understand this. God is never impressed by what impresses people. People can be influenced by appearances. People can be convinced by words. People can be distracted by achievements. But God sees beyond all of it. He sees the heart. This truth should change the way you live. Because if God sees everything, then your focus should not be on creating a perfect image. Your focus should be becoming a person of integrity. The world teaches you to protect your reputation. God teaches you to protect your character. Because reputation is what people think you are. Character is who you are when nobody is watching. And character is what God cares about. The shocking truth is that many people are not struggling because they lack opportunities. They are struggling because they are building on the wrong foundation. They want blessings without transformation. They want success without sacrifice. They want God's favor without surrender. But God is not looking for a perfect performance. He is looking for a genuine heart. A heart that chooses truth when lying would be easier. A heart that chooses humility when pride would be more comfortable. A heart that chooses obedience when compromise seems more rewarding. Psalm 52 reminds you that temporary victories gained through wrong ways are not true victories. You can gain the whole world and still lose your peace. You can receive the applause of thousands and still feel empty inside. You can achieve everything people told you to chase and still discover that your soul needed something deeper. Because only God can satisfy what success cannot. Only God can give peace that circumstances cannot steal. Only God can provide security that people cannot take away. Another difficult truth you must accept is this: you cannot control what people do, but you can control what you choose to become. People may lie about you. People may misunderstand you. People may judge you unfairly. But you do not have to respond by becoming like them. You do not have to fight darkness with darkness. You do not have to compromise your faith because someone else compromised their values. God sees, and because God sees, you can trust Him with what you cannot control. You do not need to spend your life proving yourself to everyone. Your responsibility is not to convince every person. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to God. The world may reward shortcuts, but God rewards faithfulness. The world may celebrate pride, but God honors humility. The world may follow appearances, but God searches the heart. So today, ask yourself, what am I building my life on? Am I building on people's approval? Am I building on temporary success? Am I building on things that can disappear? Or am I building on the truth of God? Because everything else can change. People can change. Opportunities can change. Circumstances can change. But God's truth remains forever. When you choose God's truth over deception, you gain something greater than temporary success. You gain peace. You gain strength. You gain a foundation that cannot be destroyed. And that is the kind of life Psalm 52 calls you to build. One of the greatest battles you will ever face is not the battle against people. It is the battle within your own heart. It is the battle between surrender and pride. Because pride is one of the most dangerous things that can enter your life. It does not always look like arrogance. Sometimes pride looks like refusing to ask God for help. Sometimes it looks like believing you can carry every burden alone. Sometimes it looks like trusting your own understanding more than God's wisdom. And the truth is uncomfortable. Pride can make you feel strong while secretly making you weak. Pride tells you you do not need anyone. Pride tells you you already know the answer. Pride tells you you can control everything. But pride creates an illusion. It makes you believe you are standing when you are actually building on unstable ground. Psalm 52 exposes this dangerous attitude. It reminds you that those who trust in their own power instead of God eventually discover that human strength has limits. You can have intelligence, but you cannot know everything. You can have resources, but you cannot control everything. You can have connections, but you cannot guarantee everything. There are battles only God can fight. There are doors only God can open. There are situations only God can transform. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you will experience true freedom. Because surrendering to God is not weakness. It is wisdom. The world teaches you that asking for help means you are failing. But God teaches you that depending on Him means you are walking in the right direction. Many people want God's blessings, but they do not want God's guidance. They want God to fix their problems, but they do not want God to change their hearts. They want God to open doors, but they refuse to follow His instructions. They want the promises of God without the process of God. But faith does not work that way. A relationship with God requires trust. It requires humility. It requires recognizing that His ways are higher than your ways. Sometimes God will lead you in a direction you do not understand. Sometimes He will close a door you wanted open. Sometimes He will ask you to wait when you want immediate answers. And pride will make you question Him. Pride will make you think, why is this happening to me? But humility will teach you to say, God, I trust you, even when I cannot see everything. That is the mindset shift you need today. Stop trying to be the master of every situation. Start allowing God to be the foundation of your life. Because when God is your foundation, your confidence does not come from circumstances. Your confidence comes from knowing who holds your future. People's opinions can change overnight. One day they may celebrate you. The next day they may criticize you. If your identity is built on people, you will always be unstable. But when your identity is built on God, you can remain steady. Not because life will always be easy. Not because problems will never come. But because your foundation is stronger than your circumstances. Psalm 52 teaches you that the person who trusts in God is like a tree planted firmly in His presence. The world may experience storms, challenges may come, uncertainty may appear, but a person rooted in God does not collapse, because their strength does not come only from men's, it comes from the Creator. You need to understand something important. You were never created to carry the weight of being your own God. You were never created to have all the answers. You were never created to control every outcome. That burden is too heavy. God is inviting you to release it. Release the need to prove yourself. Release the need to control everything. Release the fear that says everything depends on you. Because everything does not depend on you. It depends on God. Your responsibility is faithfulness. God's responsibility is the outcome. So remove pride from your heart. Remove the belief that you can do everything without Him. Remove the mindset that keeps you distant from His guidance. The strongest person is not the person who never needs help. The strongest person is the one who knows where true strength comes from. And true strength comes from God. When you build your life on His foundation, you are no longer controlled by fear. You are no longer destroyed by uncertainty. You are no longer dependent on temporary things. Because your foundation is not built on human ability. It is built on the unchanging power and truth of God. Standing on God's truth means making a decision every single day. It means deciding that fear will not control your mind. It means deciding that lies will not define your identity. It means deciding that the opinions of people will not determine your value. Because the battle for your life often begins in your thoughts. Before fear controls your actions, it first tries to control your mind. Before doubt changes your direction, it first attacks your confidence. Before you give up on God's promises, you first start believing the wrong voices. And this is why Psalm 52 is so powerful. It reminds you that your security cannot come from temporary things. It cannot come from what people say about you. It cannot come from your circumstances. It cannot come from your achievements. Your true security must come from God. The world is constantly trying to convince you that you are only valuable when you succeed. It tells you that your worth depends on your position, your possessions, your popularity, your accomplishments. But God tells you something completely different. Your value does not come from what you have. Your value comes from the one who created you. You do not have to earn God's love by being perfect. You do not have to prove your worth by comparing yourself with others. You do not have to live exhausted because you are trying to convince everyone that you matter. God already knows your worth. And when you understand that, something changes inside you. You stop chasing what cannot satisfy you. You stop allowing fear to control your decisions. You stop living for approval from people who may never understand your journey. Because the truth is, people will always have opinions. Some will encourage you. Some will criticize you. Some will misunderstand you. But if your identity is controlled by people's opinions, you will always be trapped. You will constantly change yourself to please others. You will hide your true faith to avoid rejection. You will compromise your values to receive acceptance. And slowly, you will lose the person God created you to be. That is the danger of living without God's truth. You begin to trade your peace for approval. You trade your purpose for popularity. You trade your convictions for temporary acceptance. But Psalm 52 calls you to stand firm. God's truth gives you courage when people reject you. God's truth gives you strength when circumstances challenge you. God's truth gives you peace when life feels uncertain. Because truth does not change with emotions. Truth does not change with trends. Truth does not change because people disagree. God's truth remains the same. And here is a reality you must understand. Fear is a terrible leader. Fear will tell you to stay where God is calling you to move. Fear will tell you to quit when God is telling you to continue. Fear will tell you that your past mistakes have more power than God's forgiveness. But fear is a liar. God's truth is greater. You may have made mistakes. You may have experienced disappointment. You may have walked through seasons where you questioned everything. But your past does not have